Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome back into PTN Extra. Delighted to be back in studio with you. I'm Evan Kamiko. That is Mike Irwin. Mikey, it's been a little bit, but we're finally back. We've got PTN Extra this week. We've got a lot to talk about and not much to talk about because we are officially in summer. But look, I know everyone at home still wants to ramp down and kind of relax about that Arkansas baseball loss last weekend to LSU. But here we are, about a week's gone by since that game. What are your general takeaways from Omaha now that we've got some time and some space to finally breathe?
I'm not sure that Hog fans want to hear this, but I really believe LSU was the best team in the country, and I think they were the best team because they have so much NIL money. You have these boosters, and we're used to boosters, got big money for football or basketball, but we don't think of that in terms of baseball. But they got huge baseball fans down there, boosters with money, and they've really been able to go get the best players. Their starting pitchers are the best there are. I mean, they don't just have one. They got good pitchers, and then their bullpen was probably as good as Arkansas's. Batting wise, I thought they were more consistent up and down the lineup and didn't have the holes in their lineup that Arkansas had. But when you look back on this Razorback baseball team, there's a couple of ways that I look at it. Number one, you always, when a team does pretty well, but maybe they don't win it all because they've never won it all, I don't necessarily focus on that. It's like, what do you remember about that team? And I'm not going to remember that this team ended up number 2 in the country and was probably the second best team in Omaha. What I remember about this team is they got along and cared about each other more than any team I've ever seen. The emotion when that game was over, I've never seen that before. Even before they left, it's the only team I've ever seen that had Dave Van Horn emotional. He wasn't emotional over these guys. He liked them. The season, they all got along. And there's a value in that, to being on a team where everybody likes each other and where they'll do what happened to Davilan, where they gather around him and they're lifting him up when he goes through this awful moment. But that doesn't necessarily make you a championship team, because I'm aware of teams in which guys didn't like each other, couldn't get along at all, but they got along when it mattered because they wanted to win. And so that doesn't necessarily make you a great team. It just means that you got more out of sports than probably a lot of, because when you 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, what you get with your teammates, especially when you reconnect, that's important to me. Guys that didn't like each other 10 years down the road, they're not going to be friends because they were never really friends to begin with. But again, that doesn't necessarily make you good. Good teams sometimes have people on there that hate each other, but they just want to win so badly that they pull together, So that's what I'll remember about this team. And again, I don't look at it as a curse. A lot of people say, well, yeah, and they start listing all these things that Arkansas did in various sports and how this happened and that happened and they could have done this and that. To me, when you're really good and you get up to that level where you're close to winning a national championship, anything like that happens will knock you out. So what do you do to win the national championship? You don't have those things happen. It's not a curse. You just don't let those things happen.
I think the funny thing that people are forgetting was this was a LSU team that lost a game to Little Rock back in the regional round and had to go to a Game 7 and go and beat them in Game 7. So I think, you don't necessarily remember they're losing to Little Rock because they ended the season on top. But unfortunately for Arkansas, you're going to remember the Charles Davilan dropped ball, even though, again, you could say Vahiva Aloy could have turned 2 a couple of plays earlier. The offense could have gotten going. Landon Beidelshees gave you everything he had and more. And I think the big thing that nobody's questioning has been that 9th inning where you're going to Cole Givler knowing you have Parker Coyle, who has been arguably your best reliever the entire year, sitting in the bullpen and not even using him, thinking, okay, maybe he'll start Game 2. Dylan Carter, another high velo guy that could have gone in. But again, we have so many could have, so many would have, so many should haves that you can't worry about that anymore. And what's done is done. And I think to your point, right, 299 teams play college baseball every year. Only one of them ends with a trophy, at least in the Division I level, that gets the satisfaction of winning the whole thing. So it's extremely hard. And for them to come together and for them to play great baseball, you go back to those 3-week losing stretch where you're losing series after series after series. We're sitting here going, panic button, panic button, panic button. Dave said he wanted to end the season with Omaha for this team because otherwise it wouldn't have been a good season. and they got to do it. And all things considered, you're finished 3 in the country. Yeah, it's a pretty good year.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Again, as I looked at this season as it went along, I had questions about the lineup because at various times different guys didn't bat very well. They go into a slump, which is not unusual in baseball. But I never felt like this team had enough guys where you could have 3 hits back to back or 4 hits. What you had, and people complain about this, but you got through the regional and super regional with home runs. And everybody says, oh, well, they got to do more than hit home runs. Well, when you get to Omaha, you don't hit as many home runs, and then you had a guy get a base hit, you had another guy didn't get a base hit, and that third guy didn't get a base hit, or he hit into a double play. So that was the flaw. The thing that surprised me was you also had this problem with starting pitching, which to me was really an issue. And I thought they cannot get through the College World Series like this. And the pitching was good, except for that opening game against LSU. And then look what Zach Root did coming back 2 or 3 days later and pitched his tail off. So the pitching was okay. The hitting turned out to be a problem that they'd had all year where you can't get 3 hits back to back to back.
And especially in Omaha, it tells you something when your contact guy and Justin Thomas Jr. is the best offensive player for the Razorbacks, and he's not hitting home runs. He's hitting singles and doubles. And you look there and you look through the first, 2 games, and it's like, oh man, is this just Reese Robinette's offense right now? The bottom of the order was really good, and then eventually Vahiva Aloy stepped up because he is one of the best players in the country. We'll talk about him coming up, but again, it felt like it didn't click in Omaha, and that was the bummer for this team. But again, to get that second shot at LSU and to say, hey, we were 1 out away was still pretty good. But let's shift gears. I want to talk about some of the guys we've already mentioned. And even though I know NBA draft is tonight, the MLB draft also right around the corner. And as we look at the future outlook of this team, and we'll pop up this graphic right now, in the top 600 prospects for the future stars, there are 8 Razorbacks in this. You've got Gage Wood, who's the 15th best prospect. Vahiva Aloy at 20, Zach Root at 36, Charles Davalon at 59. So these are the top 4 Razorbacks all in that top 100. As we go to the next slide and you check out some of the other Razorbacks, then there's a fall off. Landon Beidelshe's 188, Brent Iredale, the man from down under, 213, Christian Fauch, 336, Justin Thomas Jr., 519. Interesting enough, Logan Maxwell is not on that list. It's a bit of a snub for me if you had to ask my impression. Mike, I'm curious, when you see these guys in the top 600, you're going to assume everyone Beidelshe's and up probably going in the draft. What about some of these other guys? Brent Iredale could come back another year. Christian Fauch could come back another year. Justin Thomas Jr. can come back another year. Is it worth it for these guys to go to the MLB or to come back and play for DVH and try to get that national title in 26?
Well, we're going to find out, but don't assume, this sounds weird, but don't assume that every one of them will be invited back.
Yeah.
Because they have exit interviews. And you might have Dave Van Horn saying to somebody, you had a good year. What if he says to Iredale, you had a lot of promise, but the last half of the season you didn't do very much. And we'd worked to develop you, but you just didn't develop. And your best opportunity is to go now. Because that happens sometimes. So when we try to speculate, and I'm just using him as an example, that might not have it happen at all.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, you could have a Davalon who says, okay, I could make good money, but I want to come back because I think we can win it all. That's an emotional decision. I think Dave Van Horn might try to talk him out of it. Just not the best thing for you, but if you want to come back, we'll take you because you're really good. There's just all these things that are going on, and you could be a fly on Dave Van Horn's shoulder when they did these exit interviews. Then we'd know a lot more about what's going on right now. They're going to lose some players, but they've got a good core coming back. Anytime you got Ryder Helfrich, I think Ryder Helfrich right now, if somebody asked me who's the Golden Spikes winner next year, I say he is.
It's so funny because I couldn't agree more. We were saying, I think, in the office this weekend that Ryder Helfrich, we'll put it now, PTN Extra. I think both of us have him finalist for Golden Spikes.
Yeah, because of all the stuff he can do. So you've got a good core coming back. You've got some good pitchers coming back. And if you just study what Dave Van Horn does every year, he just gets guys. They've already gotten a good transfer to come in at really got a couple of pitchers, but one of them is really eye-opening. They just got a shortstop.
Yep.
Was
Out of Ball State.
He's a switch hitter. Hit 400 one. I can't remember which one it was, but
Yeah.
380 one way and over 400 the other way. He won in his conference. He won the Golden Glove Award or whatever, best shortstop. So expect to see more of that stuff. Again, I've said this before, and people argue with me about that. I think NIL money gets curbed starting the 1st of July.
Yeah.
NIL money gets curbed, and it becomes more about we're offering you a scholarship, a full scholarship, because now everybody gets that's on the roster. We're offering you a full scholarship, but we're also offering you a chance to develop because we develop players.
Is there any player on that list that you could say maybe won't come back right now? Like, look, if you're Christian Foucher sitting there at 320, you're almost better off coming back another year, developing another pitch. Do you have a player on that list, or maybe someone we didn't even talk about that you would like to see back in 2026?
Oh, there's a bunch of them. Again, I think Justin Thomas, if you could get him, I mean, he's a solid center fielder, and I feel like he can bat better than that. I mean, he had moments in which he was one of their better hitters, like at the College World Series. I'd love to see him back because that keeps I mean, if Davilan doesn't come back, you're losing your whole outfield if you don't get him, so you don't want to replace the whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd like to see him come back. I think there are guys that they will get back. That's what I'm saying to you. When you have this program and you go as far as they did, I think you're going to have some guys we can go one step further next year.
Yeah, and one step further next year, Mike, would be winning the national championship. We're getting to that series at least. Before we go to a quick break, when we come back, we're going to talk some basketball and a little bit more about baseball and softball. Again, we've talked about the hitter's side. Is there a pitcher that you'd like to see back that might be gone? Obviously, the answer, I think, would be Gage Wood. Who wouldn't want to see him another year of a Razorback? But, I mean, I'd go Aiden Jimenez, he's a redshirt sophomore, so he can get drafted. He's draft eligible. I'd like to see him back. You got a pitcher you want to see back?
One of those, absolutely Gackle.
Yeah.
I mean, because what's going to be interesting with him is, okay, they had this experiment where they started the season with him as a starter and it didn't work, and I was one of the first ones that said, hey, why did it take you so long to realize he's uncomfortable as a starter, but he's good as a relief pitcher? Okay, but toward the end of the season, I felt like he was reaching a point, and then when he comes in when he did at the College World Series, and I don't know how many pitches he went, but look, I think he can be a starter next year. I really do. So you need him.
Yeah.
You absolutely need him. But again, some of these relievers, Fouch, yeah, probably. You know, you probably want him to come back. Jimenez, however you want to pronounce it, it's Jimenez in Spanish. I don't know. It's hard to say. He was a strange guy. He was their best reliever up until about a month ago, and then he started having control issues. Couldn't get the ball. He couldn't get the ball over the plate. He was walking people. When he did get it over the plate, somebody hit a home run off of him. I pitched a little bit better at Omaha, but I don't know. These are things where Dave Van Horn and Matt Hobbs sit down with these guys and have these discussions, and you'd love to be able to listen to what's being said about that.
That's why you want to be the fly on DVH's shoulder. Well, when we come back, we're talking a little bit more baseball, a little softball, and of course, NBA. That's going to do it for PTN Extra. We'll be back on the other side of the break. Stick around. Welcome back to PTN Extra. Evan Kamiko and Mike Irwin hanging out with you on this Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. Whenever you're watching this, thanks for tuning in. Mike, we've talked a little bit already about MLB and the draft and the Razorbacks there, but there's something historic that happened this year. And if we could pop up the graphic right now, and it's this. It's Bree Ellis and Vahiva Aloy, both Arkansas Razorbacks, both winning the top awards in their sport. Bree Ellis, Collegiate Softball Player of the Year. Vahiva Aloy, the Golden Spikes Award winner. You can see their numbers right here. Bree's year, unreal 440 average. Vahiva, 350, maybe not as good. RBI, both were right around that 70 mark. Home runs, both over 21. Vahiva, 21. Bree, 26. Walks, Bree Ellis, everybody knows Bree Ellis gets on base a lot. How does she do it a ton? Walks, 69 for her. Vahiva, 32. And then the OBP, 434 for Vahiva. And 639 for Bree Ellis. Mikey, I turn to you and I ask you this. Which season of the two was more impressive?
Well, Ellis, if you just look at numbers, and it was impressive. But when you look at both of these things happening at one time, if you're one of these people that is sitting there thinking, okay, Arkansas is good in baseball, they're good in softball, but they're never going to get there. You don't have that if you don't have something going on there. What do you have something going on there? Number one, you're recruiting to get those players. Number two, you're developing them. They are, both of those players weren't what they were this year, last year. So they got developed. So again, when we get into this new world of revenue sharing, where NIL money becomes less about what you're doing, and it becomes more, especially with softball, where it's more about you got a scholarship, and that's important. But nobody else can go over here and outbid you. So then it becomes more of development. And when you can develop between the way those coaches, two coaches do and their staff, I'm just telling you, they're both going to win national championships. I'm sitting here telling you I may be retired before that happens. They will both win national championships, and that's an indication that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That you get these kind of players in the first place, and then you develop them to another level.
And what's amazing to me is both of them were transfers, right? Like Brie Ellis started at Auburn, so it wasn't like she was coming from a mid-major school. Vahiva Loy came from Sacramento State, which if you don't know Sacramento State, they're not a very high power when it comes to college baseball. So for these coaching staff to go out, and it tells me two things, and I think you hit it really well. The first is that they can recruit really good talent. It doesn't matter where you get the talent, especially nowadays when there is the transfer portal and freshmen, but it matters that you get the talent, you have the eye for what they could be, but also the fact that when they get to this program, both of them played 2 years at Arkansas, and both of them took massive steps in their second year. Dave Van Horn said early in the season, the difference from freshman to sophomore year is massive, but it's even bigger going from junior to senior or sophomore to junior. That's the big step, and it was a very good sign that Vahiva Loy took his and Brie Ellis took her big step after maybe a little bit of underwhelming year a year ago where, softball ended up losing out in regionals, baseball the same thing, and now for both of them, of course, baseball goes to Omaha, softball the upsetting game against Ole Miss. But to see the not only talent recruiting level, but also the development, it's something that's really rare in this day and age, and I'm curious for you, this is the first time this has ever happened in any collegiate program history. How special is it for all the people at home that say nothing good happens in Arkansas? And we debated this the last couple of weeks where it was, what would you grade Arkansas sports this year? How important is it for people at home to see that this school is doing this with this talent, even though they didn't get the national championship? And at the end of the day, that's all that people remember. But to see them be able to accomplish something that's never been done before.
Well, it's almost like if you're not impressed by that, if you're still sitting here saying, yeah, but the women didn't get to Oklahoma City. They didn't make it. The men got to Omaha, but they didn't win it all. So that's as good as it's going to be. If you're one of those people, it's not going to matter that you say this because you could knock on their heads and it's not going to, hey, knock, knock, guess what? Wake up to this. Because they don't process that means something else next year and the year after that. You don't have that if you don't have something going on that would give you a national championship eventually. Again, what you mentioned before, it's also that ability to find that player. It's not just that they develop him. And yeah, there's a lot of talented players out there. You show me somebody that when Vahiva Loy transferred here would have said, hey, that guy's going to win the Golden Spikes. He's that good. They didn't say that. He was a good player. It was a good get. But Dave Van Horn and his staff knew, wow, this is a guy that we can do something with. So again, when you got Courtney Deifel doing that sort of thing, when you got Dave Van Horn doing that sort of thing, yes, you as a fan should pay attention, have a little more patience, Again, they're going to get there. I'm telling you, maybe I'm more positive and optimistic than the average person. I don't know, but I'm not sitting here saying this just to make everybody feel better. It's what I truly believe.
Yeah, eventually you'd like to think the domino will fall and Courtney Deifel gets to OKC. DVH gets his title again. Time will tell where all of that, but I again, you just can't not realize that what's happening in front of you and that fans were able to go one day, literally go from Bogle Park and see the collegiate softball player of the year till later in the afternoon and go see the Golden Spikes Award winner all in an afternoon. It's stuff that you couldn't even make up. And I think even in that time, I think we as media didn't really understand what was going on, because for us it was like, yeah, we've got to go to the softball game in the morning, baseball, it's a packed day, it's a lot of fun, but then you kind of sit back for a second and realize, wow, the high level that we're seeing of some of these players who are wearing Arkansas across their chest is something that I really think gets, not talked about enough.
Yeah, and you got to throw in the fans, because I was noticing for whatever reason, LSU fans have been all over Arkansas fans in the last few days. I mean, they're just nailing them. One of them made a remark about Vahiva Loy. Oh yeah, look what our guy did. Thank goodness we had our guy at shortstop, because we got the double play at the end, and they couldn't even make it happen. Come on, don't be that ignorant. I mean, the guy is the player of the year. So again, it's the atmosphere also here. And it's the fact that, and look, every school has its internet weirdos, but I've been around. The reason I decided to stay here after one season covering the football team in 1975 was I looked at the fans. I was around the fans and I went, wow, these are fans that I want to be around because they love this program. And you didn't have an internet back then, but those fans were positive. You didn't keep them down. And people talk about who's targeted right now, the football program. I just got through reading a thing on the internet. They're probably going to lose the top 5 players in state, blah, blah, and it's like awful, okay? So everything's negative supposedly about football. But what's going to happen in about 2 months? They're going to have a full stadium. People are still going to buy those tickets. They're still going to come out to the game because Razorback fans don't give up.
Yeah.
They may get frustrated and they may want you to fire this coach, but when you don't fire that coach, they're still there.
And as long as there's no like reverse kind of thing where, oh, the football team's going in one direction, well, let's pack the stands and scream fire coaches, right? Like, no one wants to see coaches get fired at home, right? Like, that's the last thing you want. Obviously, there's accountability and all of that. That's another PTN Extra for another time and another place. But you want to support, and that's the cool thing. That's something that I've noticed since I've got here and driving down here for the first time from Indiana. It's like, I'm an hour and a half outside of Arkansas, and there are Razorback plates everywhere. And I'm like, this is cool. This is what you want to see. People care. So have some care, especially when it comes to those two players and what they've done and those two programs and what they've been able to do. Let's switch gears. Coming up after the break, we'll talk about NBA and the NBA draft for a little bit. Don't go anywhere. PTN Extra returns after this. Wrapping up shop here on PTN Extra, Evan Kamiko and Mike Irwin. Mike, let's talk a little bit about the NBA draft. Arkansas is only projected to have one Razorback get drafted. He won't be drafted in the first round, and it'll be early second, we believe, from all the mock drafts on ESPN, The Ringer, CBS. Adou Thiero projected to go somewhere between about 34 and 40, 33 and 40, somewhere around that. Was saying about, the Wizards, the Hornets, teams in that range. I'm curious for you, what would make Adou so good in the NBA?
Well, if he is what he was before he was injured, because there's a concern about that. And if you're going to draft him, you want to know, yeah, he's got those hops. He can get up like he did before. But if he can do that stuff, then he's just an addition to just about any team because, you want to get bigs, but you need kind of small forwards with certain skills that can also get up high enough to defend, to score. And we've seen him do all of those things. It's just whether or not he's going to be the player he was before he was injured. And that seems to me to be the only issue there. It's probably hurting him a little bit right now when they do these projections. But keep in mind that projections are projections. He could go higher than that or he could go lower than that. We just don't know. The guy is very talented. I really thought he might come back just looking at that. But he's getting some advice from somebody that tells him you're going to be okay. And what it really amounts to is not so much whether you're into the first round, early second round, or whatever. Ultimately, and this is this way of anybody that's going to get drafted in any sport, who drafts you? Because your life is going to be determined by that. 2 years, 3 years down the road, who you go to can determine everything. You might go to a franchise where you don't prosper and then all of a sudden you're just gone, or you might go to one where everything works and 2 years from now, 3 years from now, there's no question. People look back on it and go, man, I can't believe he was even a second rounder. You just don't know how that's going to work out.
And there's been a lot of Razorback success lately, especially in the NBA. Adou looking to be another name, and you've got Jalen Williams and Isaiah Joe, who just won a title, 2 Fort Smith natives. Curious for you, you've been in this area for a while. What does it mean for that community down there? That 2 guys who are born and raised from there go to the state over and win a title with the smallest market team in the NBA.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch them there and to watch all this happen and watch that franchise get better and better, and then watch the championship, what turned out to be what was the championship game. I just wish they'd have gotten in at the end. I was sitting there going, hey, meatball, let them in. You got this game won. There's a minute left. Stick them in the game. Let them both score. Do something.
Yeah.
But, it means a lot in the River Valley. And it means a lot for a lot of reasons. But the truth is, those guys, people down in Fort Smith, know these weren't just good basketball players. They were really good people. You couldn't ask for any 2 better guys to represent your community. If I live down there, what I'm going to say is this shows what it's like to grow up around here. We produce quality people.
Absolutely. And again, both of them, although, like you mentioned, didn't play in that Game 7, played in Game 6. Both were plus 11, plus 13, so really good on the floor. And I was kind of the same with you when I'm seeing them on the bench. I'm like, Mark Daigneault, put them in the game. Like, let's get our guys in here. Let's see them play well. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. Nonetheless, they did get a ring. And at the end of the day, I think that's all that both of them care about. And they had some fun at the celebration. We'll let you watch those videos on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, I'm sure if you've seen this, you can find them. They're quite fun. But that's going to do it for this week's PTN Extra. For Mike Irwin, I'm Evan Gamago saying so long. We'll see you back here next Wednesday.